Hello and welcome to MSP Voice webinar series. Today we are joined by Kerry Simpson of Managed Sales Pros. Um, Really interesting presentation. I've kind of taken a flip through it already. She sent it to me beforehand, so looking forward to this. Hope everyone else is as well. Kerry, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks. I think you did a great job of introducing me. Kerry Simpson, CEO, Managed Sales Pros. Thanks for inviting me to participate today.
Oh, thanks for joining.
Uh, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what we do, why we do it, how we started. I get a lot of questions from the market on like, well, how did you come up with the idea and how did you choose managed services? And so I thought I'd maybe just go through a little bit of how we got to where we are. We just started our 6th year, which
Great.
is a pretty great accomplishment. Most companies don't make it out of year 2, so to make it into year 6, debt free and profitable, that's a pretty
That's
exciting
great.
thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we started at my kitchen table in Winnipeg, Manitoba,
Is that
and
you in the picture?
that's me. I I changed the picture. Usually I have the one with me on the pink phone, but
Yeah.
I like this one of me smoking cigars better, so I used that one.
Okay.
So yeah, we started just as I was just like one person cold calling in my kitchen, and I kind of had the idea that you know why wouldn't I just offer my services directly to companies instead of working for another telemarketing company or working in
Mhm.
sales for another company. I never really liked the follow up part of the sales process. I was always more like open the door, hand it off, open the door, hand it off. And then I thought like,
Okay.
well, that's part of the sales process all in and of itself, right? Like that's one piece of the puzzle that can be
Yep.
separated from everything else.
And that's the
So I,
part that most people don't like to do, right? So,
which I've never understood. Right? I've never understood why people don't like cold calling. Like if you can't find something interesting talking to people, like when I think about the people that I call every day, right? Business owners,
Mhm.
people who've created something out of nothing. So we mostly talk to small business owners. I mean, some of our clients
Mhm.
are big vendors, but we're either calling 2 MSPs or 4 MSPs. Businesses like mine in the couple
Mhm.
$1 million range, and the owner of the business is still involved in the day-to-day activities of the business. Like if you can't
Mhm.
find something amazing about talking to people about what they're doing and how, I feel really bad for you. Like I love learning. Like I like founder stories. Like how did you start your business? Like you can't
Yeah.
always get people to like open up that much on one call, but as you go through the process, it's really interesting to hear like how did you get started? And some stories are like mine. Like, I don't know. I just thought this was a good idea. So I started making phone calls and then I got some referrals. I got a referral to a managed service provider in Winnipeg, which is where I lived. And
Mhm.
they're like, hey, can you do this? And I was like, yeah, of course we can. And then I'm like Googling managed services. Ah, yeah, no problem. IT support. How hard could that be? Turns
Yeah.
out pretty hard. But once you get it down to a process and then you tweak that process over and over and over again, eventually, something that works comes out the bottom. And I did that myself for years, just calling on behalf of IT companies, trying to figure out what's the right language, what questions do you have to ask, how do you make this work? So
Mhm.
we went from that to we have a Canadian company, and now I also have an American company called Everywhere Managed, and it's an on-premise call center in Las Vegas. We're
Okay.
just about to move out of, so we have a 5,000 square foot office here. I'm just about to sign a lease on a 10,000 square foot office. So that'll be the
Great.
next 5 years. And we're hoping to grow into that. So there's lots of stuff going on. Adding the vendor practice to our company was wildly profitable for us. So we went from having like 100% managed services clients to 50% managed services clients and 50% vendor clients.
Okay.
And it's been a great place for us. Like you were just saying that you were at Robin's big show.
Mhm. Last week.
So I was there, I want to say 4 years ago when I was trying to learn as much as I could about the managed services space. We had just started calling for a couple of MSPs and we got a bunch of referrals from one of my first clients, HTG Group. And I just really
Mhm.
wanted to like dig in and see what it was all about. And there was a speaker on stage that challenged, I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I remember that Robin Robbins was standing at the front of the stage and she said, this was like right at the beginning of the event, I want you to write down the 2 things that you want to come away from this event having learned. Right? Like, what are the 2 things that you want to learn? I can't even remember what I wrote down, but I wrote them down and I like folded up the piece of paper, and then like I wasn't even at that event an hour and a half, and I already had the answers to those 2 questions. Right? So I love that event, but what happened at that event was I had this like moment where I was like, wait a minute, there are 2 sides to this table, and I could be sitting on both of them. Right? So that was kind of the beginning of that practice. And I mean, most of our, like we made our bones, as it were, calling for managed service providers. And we still have, more than a dozen of those on our roster all the time. And we grew 621% in 2017, making us the 25th fastest growing company in Canada. I was one of Canada's top 100 female entrepreneurs the year before that, when we've made the industry award circuit here as well. So I think we're safe to say, thank you. It's safe to say we know what we're talking about by now. It only took us 6 years. So I thought I'd just share a little bit about our process.
Okay.
What we do, how we do it, and if you want to jump in at any time and clarify something, or if you've got questions from the people in attendance that they want answered,
sure.
Yeah, we're here for an hour, and I only have like 6 slides, so I think we got lots of time.
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
I could talk for like 20 minutes a slide, no problem.
That's fine.
So our process is pretty simple, right? Like maybe it doesn't look that way. I think one of the sayings is what you do, or when you're working in your genius zone, should look simple to everyone else. It should look like magic. And really all we do is a 3-step process. We qualify the lead. So do they have enough computers to justify having a call with a managed service provider? 2, do they have an appropriate budget, right? If you spent $500 on IT support last year, are you really going to sign a $5,000 a month monthly recurring contract? Probably not.
Yeah.
Are you in the right vertical for the person that, like, if you only want to work with law firms and this is a dentist's office, it's probably not qualified. Yeah. So our goal is to take garbage data, which is every piece of data in the market that you could purchase. So if you're buying data, small business data, so I don't want to discount things like DiscoverOrg and similar products where they're focused on the enterprise space, but small businesses buy data from places like Dun & Bradstreet and Info USA and Sales Genie and other random. Don't ever buy lists from those companies that email you saying, would you like to buy a list of whatever's? Like, those are garbage.
Oh, I know. I get those all the time. Yeah.
Right? So they're guaranteed 30% junk. So what we do is, first of all, we get that 30% out. So all the businesses that have gone, like all the numbers that are bad, the companies that went out of business, the people are no longer there, whatever, we take that 30% and we grind it out of the list until we've got a list of feasible prospects in a particular area. So you've got, let's say you start with 2,000 leads and we carve out 500 of them as being not appropriate. We carve out another 500 of them as being not interested or, solidly embedded in whatever it is that they've chosen. In-house support, embedded, like, hey, my wife does our IT support. Well, you're not going to bump his wife out, so get rid of those.
Probably when you get a divorce, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a prospecting perspective, that would be an interesting conversation, right? If somebody said, well, my wife does my IT support. I mean, if you really want to be a jerk about it, you'd be like, oh, well, how's that going? And then you could talk about, like, my spouse owns half my company, but like, we don't really work together.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. So I'd be like, oh my God, I can't imagine having to work with my husband every day and then go home to him afterwards. Like, I'm going to start trying to stir up trouble there. So, I mean, you can overcome that objection, but I wouldn't I'd like poke it once, see what the response was, and then maybe back off. So you've got 1,000, let's say 1,000 leads left that are actually viable, might turn into an opportunity at some point. And your goal there, or our goal here, is now to figure out what are they doing, why did they make that choice, and when are they going to make a different decision? Right? Like
Okay.
that's the whole process. And then once they become viable, so as opposed to sending, and this is especially important for managed service providers that are still active, like they're actively running their businesses and they are the primary sales agent for their business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't afford to go out on crappy, unqualified look-see meetings. Right? My
Yeah.
time is valuable. I spend an hour preparing for the meeting and then I spend how much time driving to it. I have the meeting, I have notes to take afterwards, I have a proposal to write, whatever. So let's say that every meeting you take takes 8 hours of your life away from you. That better be a qualified meeting.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I've been in plenty of unqualified meetings myself, so I know how it goes.
So there's nothing magical about prospecting, and I think that's where people get hung up, right? People call me and they're like, well, tell me about your process. And I'm like, well, our process is we actually make phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
right? I guarantee you that the people that say that they're cold calling aren't, right? They're messing around on LinkedIn, they're making lists, they're doing all kinds of other stuff. All we do here is call. We're not
Okay.
researching for 20 minutes before each dial. So if you think about how much time you have as an entrepreneur to make phone calls, right? Like if you're going to start building your business, let's say you got $1 million MSP and you want to get it to 2 and you're going to do it yourself. And some of your new leads are going to come from inbound and you've decided to make a commitment to doing outbound, you still have a
Mm-hmm.
business to run,
Yeah.
right? So part of the problem is people who are running businesses cannot consistently apply this process in their business because they're going to have to do other things. Like when I think about sitting down at my desk and okay, I'm going to do some prospecting for my own business now because I still like to do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
like now I have to deal with an HR problem and like, oh, now we have to do this and right, like let's say I've given myself a 2-hour window to make phone calls in and then I have to go on a webinar and then I have to deal with something else. But in the middle of that calling time, my manager comes in and says, oh my God, somebody just got shot in the eye with a Nerf gun. True story. It
Oh,
happened.
wow.
You know, there goes my calling
Yeah.
time. So what people don't recognize is unless you do this consistently, you're never going to get results. So if you want predictable results, you have to create repeatable process.
Mhm. Now, one thing you said a minute ago is that all you do is call, but I noticed one of your points on the previous slide was nurture. And typically when I think nurture, especially from a marketing or a lead qualification perspective, I'm thinking content, those types of things, or even emails. But is it just kind of continue to call until they bite?
Well, that's our role.
Okay.
The MSP may be doing other things to build their
Hmm.
pipeline. I mean, I own a telemarketing company, but I would never say that telemarketing is the only way to generate business or nurture opportunities. There's
Okay.
lots of different touch points, and we will send emails, but we only send emails that are specifically requested and
Hmm.
approved by our client. So we send templated
Okay.
email. We don't send out bulk email, and like we're not a digital marketing agency. We're not a creative agency. We're not an email marketing agency. We are a telemarketing agency, 100% old school smile and dial.
Okay.
So the MSP may be doing other things, especially at content creation and thought leadership. That's extraordinarily important. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to introduce you to companies that do that, but we don't do that.
Okay.
We
So
do it
you
for
so you
ourselves.
basically, yeah, but you hand over the qualified leads to your customers, right? They've gone through
Correct?
your process, and then is it on them then to do some of the nurturing and those types of things?
No, we do all of it. We do
Okay.
it right. We do it right up to the I am ready to meet now. So our
Okay, gotcha.
goal is to nurture the pipeline so that the business owner doesn't have to,
Got it.
right? They meet with us once a week and we do everything else.
Okay.
And the goal is to create. So there's probably a 2-year time frame in any mid-sized market for outsourced
Hmm.
lead generation. Right? If you think about how many potential leads there might be in your market at any given time, and then take
hmm
out the ones that aren't appropriate. There aren't that many companies starting up. Like you're not going to have so many new businesses starting up in your community every day that you're going to have lots of people to call that are new.
Yeah.
Eventually, your calling company or your calling team runs out of leads, and you should have a like finite number of known prospects that you are trying to win business from, and you should know everything about them. When does their
hmm
contract expire? Who are they working with? What are their like? What's keeping them up at night? That's how you win business. But first, you
Yeah.
have to do all the junk work first, and that's why people pay us, so they don't have to do that.
Okay, that makes sense.
So one of the things I like to talk about is the difference between displacement selling and disruption selling. And we do a little bit of both here, but managed services now is all displacement selling, which means that everybody that's going to buy managed services from you is probably already buying it from someone else, right? Or they're working with a perceived competitor, right? So maybe
Yeah.
they're buying break fix, but they don't understand the difference between break fix and managed,
hmm
right? So they're doing something. Everybody is solving this problem in some way. And it's your job to start poking holes in what they're doing and convince them that you're a better choice, that you will be a better partner. And maybe you will be, maybe you won't be, right? Like your job is to only take on business that you know that you can support. So if it's way out of your scope, you got no
hmm
business signing that.
Yeah.
So there's no new opportunities in managed services. Now, like you look at the managed security market, that's a disruption market, right? You could sell
hmm
managed security into a company without bumping out the company they're currently working with.
Yeah.
So if you're going to choose what you're going to sell right now or what you're going to add to your line card or what your next phase is in your MSP, how are you going to get that extra million in revenue next year? You have to look at two things. Am I going to sell more managed services opportunities and wait, which is essentially what you have to do, right? Like
hmm
normal, rational business owners don't change IT companies because they got a good sales call. They change, right? Like they change IT providers at a time that is minimally disruptive to their business. They
hmm
usually honor their agreement with their current provider. And they're kind of like me, like if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, am I totally in love with every tool that I use to run my business? No. But am I prepared to rip and replace my system and retrain everybody in my company? Also, no. So
Yeah.
you have this kind of like, is the pain big enough to warrant changing? Or is the timeline correct for changing? And those two things, without those two things, pain and an appropriate timeline, you're not going to close a deal in managed services. So then
Okay.
you have to start looking at how do you generate more revenue? Well, you sell things that people haven't bought yet, and ideally you sell them to companies that are already working with IT companies, and then you pull over the entire managed contract. So you go in talking about security.
hmm
You win that business without bumping their current provider, and who knows why their current provider hasn't tried to sell it to them yet, but they haven't. And then, you just wait out their provider and win the whole business.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's using the disruption to create the displacement.
Correct.
Got
You
it.
have to wait out displacement. Disruption doesn't
Yeah.
require you to bump a competitor, right? Like, no, we're not buying that. That sounds really cool. Tell me more about that, right? As opposed to, no, we already have that, which is the most common objection for managed services prospecting. We're good with what we have.
Yeah, no, one of the things I heard a little bit about last week, and I talked to some other folks about, is this idea of co-managed IT, where it's not a small business, but it's a medium to a larger business, and the MSP can actually come in and help complement their existing IT department and take over
Yeah.
certain areas. Is that something some of your customers or clients are looking to do as well?
We don't focus on that space. So our goal
Okay.
is to win managed services contracts in the
hmm
20 to 200 seat market. That's our sweet
Okay.
spot. That's our
Yeah.
genius. We'll do other projects when asked, but in
hmm
my experience, if you're going to sell into the higher than 200 seat space, your sales cycle is going to be significantly longer. Your
Yes.
ROI you'd still have ROI on telemarketing, but it would take you so long to realize it that you would be angry with me by about month 9. Right?
Okay.
So like
That's
you're gonna
honest.
you'll win the business eventually, but you won't win it fast.
Yeah. Well, and that's
So
one thing, in my, I've worked for vendors for a number of years, and it's the smaller the customer, the quicker the win. And then, like you said, as they get larger, it takes more and more time, a lot more relationship building and personal nurturing to win those bigger contracts
yeah,
than just
20 to
a cold
50,
call.
20 to 50 seats is probably the sweet spot for cold calling. Under
Yeah.
20 computers and they are not experiencing enough pain yet, right? So
Hmm.
if you've only got 10 computers and your company isn't aggressively technology dependent or technology strategic, it probably doesn't matter to you that you couldn't log into your email for a couple of hours today,
Yeah.
right? So it's impossible to sell a $150 a seat managed contract to somebody who doesn't care if their computers don't work, right? Like what do you do when your computer breaks? Well, I throw it out and I buy another one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right? How do you sell against that?
Yeah, and especially I think a lot of, because a lot of the MSPs I talk to, they don't touch retail, mom
Oh
and pop
God,
shops,
and
just
nor should
because it's just
they.
not worth it.
No, any environment where multiple people share the same equipment is going to be a challenging environment to support,
Yeah.
right? But what I like to think about now is the social obligation that we have around security. Like it isn't about you anymore. And the biggest, like when you start thinking about, okay, how am I going to get into these companies? They're not ready to buy managed services, but they haven't really talked about security. And I'm surprised at how few MSPs are actually trying to build a decent approach to managed security, because it's a free zone right now. People haven't bought
Yeah.
it yet. So you got to be in there trying to sell it. And it's something that you can sell without bumping out their current provider. So have different conversations. But the one I like the best is around social obligation and security, right? So let's say I don't care about my own company, which is ridiculous. But let's say I don't know, I've got 10 computers and I work with a bunch of vendors. And the
Hmm.
question I always get is like, why would anybody care about my small business? Like, why would anyone try and hack our company? We don't have anything. There's no money in the bank, et cetera, et cetera. And the conversation is, it's not about you. It's about the people that you're doing business with and the people that work for
Yeah.
you. Like you have a social obligation to protect everybody that you interact with. And if you're neglecting that, I think eventually security will become a sales tool, right? People will only do business with people that can prove that they are as invested in protecting your company and your data as they are in protecting their own.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's the story I
That's a
like
great
to
way.
tell
That's a
right
great way to
now,
look at it. Yeah.
right? Like if I have to choose a vendor and I've got one vendor who's got like some sort of trust mark that says, hey, we've undergone this kind of education, or we use this security tool to make sure that this never happens. Like if you're demonstrating that you're taking security seriously, I know that I can trust my business to you. Or I know I can
Hmm.
work for you without worrying about my identity being stolen because you're going to protect my information. It becomes a competitive advantage. And I don't think the market's quite there yet, but I think people who are telling that story and focusing on, you know, cloud application security, there's a
Hmm.
huge market for that right now, and people aren't talking about it yet. So we got some work to do.
Definitely. Well, that makes just a lot of opportunity out there. So that's good.
And people keep saying cold calling doesn't work. Cold calling doesn't work. Well, I've got a multi-million-dollar company that says that yes, it does.
Hmm.
And clients that are making 1100% ROI on their programs.
Yeah, so one of the, just real quick, one of the questions here from the audience is, you talked at the beginning about how much you enjoy, getting to know people, and, cold calling is something, that you like doing. How, obviously you didn't make a million calls last year, personally.
Nope.
You've got a team of, you've hired a team of people, you're growing and expanding. So how do you hire for that skill? Because I think that's one of the things, whether or not they utilize your services or not, cold calling, I think, is one of those areas that a lot of people just dread. And how do you find the people that have that kind of innate ability to just pick up the phone and talk to people?
So
Can
the
you teach
only
that, or is it?
no,
is it
all you need to do is follow a process. So
Mhm.
first you need to deal with the psychological challenge around the perception of telemarketing. Right?
Yeah.
So telemarketing is viewed as something that's kind of dirty and scammy, and it's nobody's dream job. But we recognize that. Nobody dreams of becoming a telemarketer one day. Right? Like, although I wanted to be a hairdresser when I was 6, but nobody like wakes up in the morning hoping they get a telemarketing job today. So our first challenge is, how do you make the job more interesting? Like, we aren't selling newspaper subscriptions. We're talking
Yeah.
about really cool technology with really interesting people, right? Like, we're talking to people who've built businesses from nothing, and now we're talking to them about how to protect them. This is your
Hmm.
entire life's work, right? You spent 20 years building a business, and you're not going to spend $200 on a security solution that will make sure that it's not stripped away from you in 15 minutes,
Hmm.
right? So there's, ah, sorry, I get all carried away when I think about it, but so
But
the
so
teaching people how
this
to do that is process oriented, right? So
okay.
you can build a process, you can teach someone to follow that process. So you hire people who
Yeah.
follow process, not necessarily people who are, innately talented telemarketers. We
Hmm.
hire from some really, unemployment is at 4% right now,
Yeah.
which means you're competing. Like, let's say you're going to pay your telemarketer $15 an hour. They can make that at Chick-fil-A without taking shit from people all day on the phone. Right? So how am I going to convince this guy to come work for me instead of Chick-fil-A? I'm nobody, and Chick-fil-A is known for their training program and their benefits and their
Mhm.
college
Yeah.
education plans. And so some of the things we had to do were like, one, health insurance. We offer health insurance to all our callers. We offer paid vacation to all our callers. We have profit sharing. Like, we tried to
Okay.
create an environment that was far more attractive than most of the other telemarketing environments available to somebody who is going to take a telemarketing job. And make no mistake about it, telemarketing is a job that people settle for. Right? They aren't coming in because they hope they get this job. This is their last chance. Everything else said no. That's why they're here. And we know
Okay.
that. So the first thing that we do when somebody comes in, and we don't even read resumes anymore. I don't even look at them. It is a waste of my time. Right? People are like, just nobody's reading job ads. They just throw the resume out to everything on there at that level of income, right? Like at the
Mhm.
$15 an hour point or below, people are just applying for any job, and they don't care what the job is. They've got rent to pay next month.
Mhm.
Their fridge is empty. They can't afford a bus pass. They come into our call center, thinking that this is the best it's ever going to get for them. Like, there is this moment where they come in and they're like, oh God, okay, I guess, like, they're settling. They're settling, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want that. That's not what I want on my call floor. I don't want people who are settling for us. I want people excited to be here. I want them to recognize this as the beginning of the step towards a much better paying, much better career. If you can put $1 million into Cisco's pipeline next year, you can do anything you want the year after that.
Yeah.
But people
Yeah.
don't see it
And I,
that way, so you have to reframe it.
yeah, and I think a lot of people too, in terms of sales, is if you're really good at cold calling, and like you said, and you're filling pipelines, companies are really going to want to hire you, and it's kind of it's a step in a career, and salespeople, especially in the technology business, they have an opportunity to make lots and lots of money
Well, the
as they
problem for
go through.
managed,
So
like the problem for hiring telemarketers for MSPs, like small MSPs, let's say like $1 million, $2 million shops,
mhm.
is that anybody that is going right from college into an SDR role, or SDR is a fancy sales development, is what we call telemarketing, so it doesn't sound so dirty,
Yeah.
but it's just like, if you're going to telemarket right out of college, you're probably being snapped up by Oracle or Cisco or anybody that's, well known for their sales training program. And you're the type of person who's thinking 5 career moves ahead.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to Xerox, or you're going to Ricoh, or you're going, is Ricoh even Ricoh anymore? Whatever. But you're going,
I'm not sure.
you're going to a large tech giant, and you're going to go sit in a pit with other shiny college graduates and grind the phone until you get the reward of getting out of the pit, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're essentially putting in your time, knowing full well that the next step in your job is a 6-figure salary, right? Whereas the people that are coming to work for small MSPs, you get whatever's left over. You don't get those guys. Those guys went to work for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not if they're making money, they're not leaving. So when people are applying for jobs, right? Like they're applying for telemarketing jobs, if there's somebody who says that they're a rock star and they're unemployed, they're lying. Period. Right? Like nobody's leaving Xerox to come work for $1 million MSP co. Period. It's not happening. Right? So if Xerox fired them, they fired them for a reason, and you don't want them.
Yeah.
So it's better to take somebody that's never done telemarketing before and teach them a process that they can follow and show them a path to success, financial success, more importantly. Although we're finding that financial success isn't as important to some people as it is to others, right? Some people are motivated by the idea of making more money, whereas some people just want to be part of something bigger and better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's the millennial shift, I guess.
trying to figure out what motivates each individual person is really hard. And then the people are always saying, hey, just throw more money at it. Just pay more. You'll get better callers. That's not true. You get the people that are willing to telemarket, period. That's who you get. People who don't want to be telemarketers don't care if it's $10 an hour or 50. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, so that's why, again, looking at what you have to offer, some of the reasons MSPs outsource, everything you just explained is you're not going to be able to find a person, if you're a small, a $1-2 million MSP, you're not going to be able to find a cold caller to hire necessarily, because like you said, they've already gone out, they're somewhere else. And
you're not
maybe that's why
get
someone would hire you. Yeah.
You're going to get the same people I get. The difference is I have a process.
Yeah.
Right? I have a training program and a process and a group of people that will support that person. And you've just got your office with 4 other people in it and the desk that you set up in the corner, right? Like you don't have a process. You haven't decided what you're going to do with them. You've never made a cold call before, and somehow you think you can train a telemarketer. How are you going to do that, right? Like that's the big challenge. Is like, okay, you want to teach somebody how to troubleshoot a insert name of technological thing here. Great, you know how to do that. Teach them. But you get a business owner who's like, okay, we're going to hire a telemarketer. Like, great. How are you going to do that? Oh, we'll run an ad here. Like, okay. And then what are you going to ask them in the interview process? Oh, I don't know. And okay, so now you've hired them and they're sitting in your office. What's next? Well, we gave them a list and a phone. Oh, okay. Right, great. So more often I hear the well, we had a telemarketer and it didn't work. Well, how long did you have them for? Well, I don't know, like 2 months. Like, well, first of all, it takes a year to see ROI. Second of all, like, how did you support them? You just threw them in the corner with ConnectWise and said, hey, get to work? And it sounds stupid when you say it like that, but that's exactly what people are doing.
Yeah.
They're getting razzle-dazzled by resumes that mean nothing. They're like, oh, well, we don't have to train this guy. He already knows how to sell insurance, right? We don't have to do anything here. Well, first of all, why is that guy unemployed? And second of all, is insurance exactly like selling managed services? No. So you can't expect somebody to perform well if you're not able to support and coach them. And we learned that the hard way too, right? Like we had to make all the same mistakes that our clients are making right now. Like our turnover was high the first couple of years, and we're a call center, so it's always going to be high. But what we learned was that the better prepared people are to pick up the phone for the first time, and the less scary it is to them, the better they're going to perform. Right? But you can't just look at, then you get into metrics. And I mean, I could go on and on about this forever, but you start looking at things like, okay, how am I going to incentivize this person? Am I going to pay them more for making more calls? Well, no, they're just going to make more bad calls. Do I pay them per meeting? No, you just get bad meetings. Am
Yeah.
I like, there's so many things. Like, I can look at the back end of our call center, pull the data, and tell you in 5 minutes who's having a good day and who's screwing around. Easy.
Okay. Yeah.
Just by like pattern variances. But I mean, that comes from 6 years of looking at data every day. And thank God I get to pay someone to do that now, because it's boring. But people don't know the difference between a campaign that is gaining traction and a campaign that's failing, because they don't know how to look at the numbers correctly. So let's say you got a guy sitting in your office and he's dialing 100 times a day. Could you tell the difference between somebody who is just wasting your time and money and somebody who is just having a bad month? How do you know what's coming down the pipeline? What process did you build to be able to measure the success of somebody who's making calls before money starts dropping out of the bottom of the funnel, which could take a year? You're going to keep that guy for a year? Probably not. That's what happens, right? They fire them every 3 months, and then their pipeline dries up again. And then they hire like an outsourced company and they use them for 3 months, but nothing happens. So they fire them. And then it happens again, right? Like the cycle just perpetuates. And that stop, start, that's what kills your funnel. Consistency is what makes you money. So whether it's 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week, you have to do the same things over and over again all week, every week, to get results, predictable results.
That makes sense. And that cycle that you talk about, that every 3 months, right? Because we all expect immediate results, but especially in this process, immediacy is not going to happen, because you have to build it, you have to nurture it, and then you have to close it, and that takes time.
Yeah, and cold appointments are different from referrals. So MSPs come to us all the time and say like, well, we built our business on word of mouth. Like, great. You know what? Referrals are amazing, but they are not a business development strategy. Nobody owes you a referral. And one day they just stop coming in, right? Like one day you go from like, hey, I was getting like a referral every 2 weeks. We were signing a new client every month. It was amazing. And then there were no more referrals, and they don't have a backup plan. They haven't been doing anything to nurture their pipeline. There's no email marketing or digital marketing or social presence or telemarketing. Like doing nothing. They're doing nothing. So great. I'm glad that you're getting referrals. And if you create a good enough referral pipeline, you'll never have to make another cold call again. That's the promised land. But to get there, you got to make a call or two.
Okay.
So I feel like I covered most of what's on this slide through that rant, but
I think so. I was just looking through. Yeah. Especially the consistency and
opportunity cost is huge too, right? What people are like, so if I think about the first things that I gave up as a business owner so that I would have more time to do other things, right? Like, what are the things that cost you money that you could do and you might do okay, right? But what's your billable time worth? So I could do my own invoicing, right? Like I could go into QuickBooks and invoice clients, or I could charge people $300 an hour to train them, or I could sell, a $72,000 contract, all in that same period of time, right? So in that 3 hours that it would take me to generate invoices, I could sign a new client. I could do 3 hours of coaching. That's $1,000. That I could pay my accountant for a month with that. So why would you take on something that you don't want to do and that you're terrible at to save a couple bucks? Because you're not actually saving money, you're losing money, right? If you
you're
can
costing yourself money because you're not making money.
Well, even if you're still supporting clients, right? What's billable time worth to you? If you're doing projects, if you're still involved in that part of the business, if your time is worth X and you can pay someone much less than X to do the thing that you don't want to do, that just makes sense. And from an ROI perspective, long term, the sooner you start, the more or the faster it will pay off. So if you think about prospecting as a high interest savings account, the sooner you start putting money in the bank, right, the more money you'll have. I wish I'd listened to my parents when I was a kid. They said, if you start putting
Yeah.
$50 a week away right now, every week for the rest of your life, whatever, by the time you're 50, you won't have to work another day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, whatever. I like to drink. So I didn't do that, right? I wish I had, but I didn't. And that's what prospecting is like. The sooner you start and the more consistent you are, the more money comes out the other side. But
Mhm.
the longer you wait, the drier your pipeline gets, the more work you have to do at the beginning now. Like now I have to put away 20% of my income every week. Whereas if I just put $50 a week away starting when I was 18, I'd have all the money in the world. It didn't happen like
Yeah.
that for me. So prospecting is kind of the same. Like you have to do the work and you have to do it all the time. And the more, if you start now, you don't have to do as much as if you wait until your pipeline's completely dry.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like how you put that, yeah, especially with this with the savings account. So.
Yeah, well, there, we're done. Ta-da!
Well, we're done with the slides.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone, now obviously this is what you do. If someone is interested in hiring you, hiring managed sales pros to do this for them, what's kind of the process? How do you, what kind of customer, what kind of MSPs do you work with? What, how do you, is there, how
So
does it work?
the sweet spot for us is probably an MSP that is either has an aggressive plan and a war chest, right? So you're at 1 million, you want to get to 2, you understand how you're going to get there, and you've already budgeted a year's worth of money for prospecting.
Mhm. Okay.
That's fine. But most of the time, the companies we work with at this point are probably somewhere between 2 and 5 million, trying to get over whatever place they're stuck at. So
Yeah.
you got the 2 million, you stayed there for 3 years, you don't want to be there anymore, you're trying new stuff. That's probably where we come in. Or you've
Okay.
gotten to $5 million, you've got multiple sales reps, and you need to support them with more leads than they're currently getting. So somewhere in between, the owner is still making the owner is still doing the sales appointments, and we've got a couple sales reps, so we need to keep them busier than they are. That's the place where we live. Any bigger than that, if you haven't, like, quite frankly, if you got to 5 million without using an outsourced sales company, you probably are doing it okay, and you should continue
Hmm.
doing what you're doing. If you
Okay.
want to, like, we'll work with you. I mean, I'll take your money all day, every day, but odds are, like, most of the companies that have gotten to 5 million by now have tried telemarketing and it's
Yeah.
working for them, right? They have an in-house team doing it and it's working for them.
Hmm.
And if they
Yeah.
don't, like, we'll train, like we train. I'm happy to go in and do consult. You want to figure out how to prospect better? I'm happy to come in and help.
Okay.
So I don't take on a lot of consulting projects simply because running a call center is like 3 full-time jobs. Everyone's like, hey, Carrie, why do you charge so much? And I want to say, like, come run my call center for a week.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised I'm not charging double.
Another question here from the audience. What if my competitor is using your services? Can I?
No, but I'll happily poach your clients for them.
So do you limit yourself then? And like when you're working with an MSP, is it
Yeah.
limited to like a market or a vertical or?
No, we are geographically exclusive.
Okay.
So we are, so we don't usually do vertical specific prospecting, at least not internationally. So if you're like, hey, we want to work with every law firm in North America, we're not the firm for
Hmm.
you. You want to work with
Okay.
every law firm in Atlanta? Sorry, Jim, we're your guys, right? Like we have a
Hmm.
client, we have a client in Atlanta that focuses only on law firms. So I was teasing him a bit, but he also didn't start out that way, right? When we first started working with him, he was focused on multiple verticals, and then he went
Hmm.
so niche specific that really he moved himself out of our sweet spot, because in
Okay.
order to make telemarketing calls, you need lots of calls to make. So
Yeah.
once you strip out thousands of people to call, if you've only got 500 targets, we're not the company for you.
Okay.
Right? Telemarketing is process and volume, right? It's not account-based marketing, which is what you need to do if you're trying to target law firms that have more than 100 lawyers in Atlanta. Like that is a different sales process, and it's not one that we excel at. We excel at taking enormous volumes of data and turning them into useful prospect databases.
Okay, so most of your MSP customers then probably aren't too verticalized based on that.
They may choose several verticals, and they may ask us to start in a particular place. So most of them eliminate verticals as opposed to specify verticals. So they'll say, we had a client who hates working with dentists. Don't call any dentists. And then we have clients who are like, no government, no education, no retail, no transportation, no. And like we've learned over the years what works and what doesn't. So for example, so when you're pulling data, you want to look at what are the technologies strategic organizations, what do they look like, what's the snapshot of them, how big are they, and you want a 1-to-1 ratio of employees to computers, or maybe a 2-to-1, right? Like you want them to have multiple devices that you can support, but you don't want a company that has one computer that 10 people access. So when you're pulling data, you need to look at the SIC codes and figure out like, okay, the transportation isn't a good fit because you've got 40 people driving cars. They don't have computers that you're going to support. So if there's 45 employees, there's only 5 computers in that company. So unless they're doing something really interesting around geofencing and all their cars are, chipped in some way, or they have tablets with them or whatever, most of the time that's not going to be a great fit. So you want to eliminate your lowest percentage shots right away. Don't pay our rates to call companies that are probably way out of your scope. Pay us to call the people that will probably do business with you one day.
Okay. So understanding, that you work with geographies, do you have a lot of geographies available today, or are you kind of limited now because you have so many MSP customers?
I think we have about a dozen MSP customers right now. So, I mean, that leaves a lot of the country wide open. So we usually do like you take where the MSP is located, and then we'll go out in small circles, and you can do this in Hoovers, but you could set okay, let's go 5 miles out. So in New York, for example, you could get 2,000 leads in 20 blocks?
Yeah.
So if you're in Manhattan,
I was thinking it's probably less than that.
So if we're looking at Manhattan, we might look at a vertical specific campaign targeted towards construction companies or whatever. As long as we can get about 2,000 leads out of it, we're good. But if you're in like the middle of nowhere, Iowa, you may have to go to 100-mile radius around your office to get 2,000 leads. So how far do you want to drive, right? Like that's how we create territories. It's usually number of leads in a specific area. And then we'll have places like LA where somebody's office will be in downtown, but they want to focus on Glendale, or they want to focus on Orange County, or they want to start a new office in Santa Barbara, whatever. Like they decide. So you decide what your qualifiers are. If you only want to work with 50 plus organizations, like 50 seats and up, again, we probably won't take that business because it's really going to eliminate half of your market. And that gives us half the number of calls to make, and we're going to get half the number of meetings.
Okay. No, and like I think one of the examples you just mentioned too is if you're looking to expand, right? Like maybe, like you said, you're good in downtown LA, but you want to expand into Orange County or some other area and start an office there, and you need prospects and things like that within that geography, then that's a good time to call you and help you grow that business there.
Correct.
Cool. Crystal clear. I don't have any more audience questions. Anything else? Any other great advice you have for us before we go?
Great advice. Well, start exploring the security solutions that you want to add to your stack, and talk to your vendors, right? If you're looking at starting something new, like new prospect, like you want to do digital marketing, or you want to do telemarketing, or you want to learn how to do something, talk to the vendors that you support the most about what their other clients are doing that is successful, right? Like your
Mm-hmm.
vendors want you to succeed because when you succeed, they sell more stuff.
Yeah.
They will help you. They'll help you get better. But I feel like there's all this MDF out there that people aren't using. There's all this
Mm-hmm.
knowledge base that people aren't taking. And you want to learn how to cold call? Start taking cold calls.
Yeah, and just for the listeners that don't know what MDF is, that's marketing
Oh,
development funds.
correct. Yes.
Because
Sorry.
I know what it is, but I know that if you've never haven't spent a lot of time in marketing or sales and those types of things, not everyone knows MDF. But
Well,
it's a great resource.
if you're just starting out, like if you've sold like one Cirrus or Alto or whatever, like if you've sold one of something, you aren't an MDF candidate, right? Like
Correct.
if you're building someone else's revenue stream, you're a candidate for MDF. But what I usually
Yeah.
suggest is if you're like a nice time to ask for MDF is either if you're switching partners, so you've decided you're not going to work with this company, you're now going to move your business over here. That's a great time
Mm-hmm.
to ask for joint marketing funds for them to support you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're making a commitment to them, they should make a commitment to you. But you also need to demonstrate that you're invested in the success of your partners. So don't go to your vendors with your hand out begging for joint marketing funds. Or like they really don't owe you any unless your partner level comes with that guarantee. Right?
Yeah.
Go to them saying, hey, I want to build my practice by X amount this year, and I want to do a campaign specifically focused on Dado. Right? I want to sell more Dado. Tell me how your other partners are succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And your partners are going to tell you how to make more money. You got to listen to them. And once you've shown them, like, do it once yourself. Like, put the money out. You want to do a lunch and learn that talks about Dado? Build yourself a
Mm-hmm.
lunch and learn, pay for everything, and then come to Dado afterwards and say, hey, look how great we did here. We'd love to do this again. Will you support
Yeah.
us in it? Right? Show them that you know what you're talking about and you know how to sell and you know how to close. Before you go to a vendor and say, hey, give us money, prove to them that you are invested in their success, right? Start engaging with them. Go to their
Mm-hmm.
conference. Talk to people.
Yep.
Like more and more I see like people trying, like they're asking vendors for money, but they're not supporting their vendor in any way. Like when's the last time you signed business for that vendor? They don't owe
Mm-hmm.
you anything.
Yeah. No,
And
it
then
all
tell
makes
them to
perfect
give the
sense.
money to us.
Awesome. Carrie, this has been great. I really appreciate your time today. I think, you said so many great things through the webinar. I think that a lot of people are going to be able to learn from and also hopefully, contact you if they feel that they could use your services.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today. I love to share my opinion with people who listen. So
Well, I definitely listened. I know our attendees did as well. So, you know, good luck cold calling out there.
thank you. Where are we going to see you next?
Um, I will be in Dallas next for an ASCII event. And then after that, I will be in Orange County for another MSP focused event, SMB Tech Fest, I think is what it's called. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be out and about.
All right. Well, Orange County's nice. Dallas is nice too.
Yeah.
Go to Heart 8, get some barbecue.
We'll try to do that.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.